The SEC, namely Alabama, heard the Big 12 footsteps, namely Iowa State, and decided they had to do something about it. Why? Why Iowa State? We're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, we are going to be breaking down Jett Thomalla officially flipping his commitment and heading to Alabama, why this may have happened and what it means for Iowa State. Then we're going to talk about some anonymous coaches' comments towards Iowa State. Love that they stayed anonymous. We'll talk about what they said and why I think that they are nowhere close to correct. And finally, we'll talk about why Audi Crooks said she's coming back to Iowa State. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about that women's team as a whole, a team that I think could be very, very good next year. But before we dive into all of that, though, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, now today I was just scrolling some social media. And you know, in today's day and age, you got to be on your toes a little bit, right? You know, you gotta double check big things that come across your timeline because you never know what could happen, what might not happen, have actually happened, I suppose. And I saw a little graphic, looked pretty real, saying that Jed Tamala chose Alabama. And this is obviously something I've been waiting for to kind of hear one way or the other. I wasn't sure if we would ever hear for certain that he picked Iowa State because he was officially committed to Iowa State. But I knew that if he was going to flip, we would definitely hear about it. So I see this post, and I'm like, oh my, this can't be real, right? I like started sweating. I'm freaking out a little bit. Double check. Yes, this seems to be the case. Jett Thomalla officially chose Alabama over Iowa State. We'll get into the why kind of in a second here. What does this mean? You know, I think we kind of talked about this when I spoke on why I think he might stay. I think that this probably means it's a step towards the NFL, or at least what Jett Thomalla probably assumes is the right move to make a step towards the NFL. Alabama obviously has a wide history in the NFL. Jalen Hurts obviously was at Alabama for a period of time, Super Bowl champion. You know, there are ties from the NFL to Alabama, believe it or not. I don't know if you're an NFL fan, or maybe you're an NFL fan just visiting the show. If you are, it's free to subscribe. And Nick_Marv on Twitter is the spot to be. But there are Alabama guys that are in the league. So just so we're aware of that, I can see why he would at least assume, or potentially assume, that going to Alabama might provide the tools needed to make it to the big leagues. That doesn't mean Iowa State doesn't have those tools. It just means that that's the decision that he made. Where does that leave Iowa State? Well, now Iowa State doesn't have a 2026 class quarterback. I think Iowa State will be fine, and we'll talk about future steps here in a second. But this was the lone wolf. And this was kind of a wild get, in my opinion, for Iowa State. 4-star, really put up some unbelievable numbers. Obviously, play out this season, and we'll see what happens. But I was really surprised. I was proud of Matt Campbell and co. I was like, hey, we're turning over a new rock. We're starting to make some headway in this recruiting game. And I think we still are. I still think we have a very, very good class, especially now when you consider that Alabama kind of got Iowa State's seconds, if you will. I'm sure that there are Alabama fans that aren't going to feel that way. But I mean, we got him to commit to Iowa State first. So, I mean, it is what it is. As far as why, this is the big question, right? This is kind of the $1 million question. Why would Jed Tamala choose Alabama over Iowa State? I'm sure there are plenty of Crimson Tide fans who have their opinions. I would love to see what Iowa State fans think. But I do wonder if Jamie Pollard's comments didn't exactly help the situation. I just don't. I can't help but think maybe saying that Iowa State is completely cooked in the next 5 years doesn't make a guy who will be around at year 4 or 5 potentially think, "Oh, that's a great spot to be." Do I agree with what Pollard is saying? Maybe, maybe not. It's ways out into the future. I don't have access to all of the financial, stuff on the back end. I just don't know exactly what we're looking at here. And based on the information I have, I could see it maybe going either way. So I can't really say for certain, like, okay, like Jamie Pollard's just kind of calling it how it is. Or if it's more of a like, all right, this is a little bit of an exaggeration. It's really not going to be that bad. Iowa State probably doesn't need to leave the Big 12, kind of like what he was saying, or there's really not that big of a chance that Iowa State leaves the power conferences. Like, I don't know exactly what the situation is. I think Iowa State will be fine. I really do. Talking about the college football playoff, that's a whole nother conversation. We talked about it yesterday. Some new kind of perspectives have come to light. I would like to chat about those later this week, and those will impact Iowa State's kind of revenue. But nonetheless, to stay on topic here, Jamie Pollard just literally coming out, and while it was an unbelievably informational interview, I mean, it really opened up my eyes to the situation going on in Iowa, really, as a whole. Iowa State, UNI, other miscellaneous colleges. It was a very helpful interview. I am not saying anything against that, but the fact that that was kind of the situation, and then it wasn't like a lot of other ads were like, "Yeah, we're in the same boat." Like, at least I didn't see any. The fact that he was kind of the only one banging his drum and everybody heard about it wasn't, in my opinion, ideal for the Tamala situation, because I know for a fact that Alabama isn't thinking the same thing. I don't think Alabama's in the same boat as Iowa State. I think that's fair to make that assumption. Is that the only reason? Probably not. I do wonder if it's a situation of could he come back to Iowa State after a year or two, maybe playing some backup, a little bit of a redshirt situation at Alabama with the transfer portal being what it is, makes his way back to Ames. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't like being so far from home. Iowa State obviously dominating the Nebraska portal still, and Nebraska is closer to Ames than it is to Alabama. I don't know exactly what the reason is. I just know that I just can't help but shake it. That Pollard's comments, they got a little loud. There were a lot of people talking about him, and I'm sure that Tamala had to sit down and be like, you know what? Maybe there is some truth to that. Alabama makes this offer. Let's go check it out. Nice facilities, kind of a history with the NFL. Very good team, very good program. Like, if Iowa State is what Jamie Pollard says they are, I think I'd rather probably be in this situation over in Alabama. Don't love it. Don't love that that's the situation. But I do think it's cool that Iowa State at least had him committed for a while. And I think they're still dominating in that recruiting class. But now we have to kind of come to terms with the fact that Jett Thomalla won't be wearing cardinal and gold. He'll be wearing, was it crimson and white? Is probably what it is, the Crimson Tide. Let me know what you think, because I'm not exactly thrilled about it, but I think Iowa State will be fine moving forward. Obviously, you got Rocco, potentially 2 more years. Mansky, a dude. Connor Moberly, a dude, both on scholarship through 2028. I'm not too worried about the future of Iowa State quarterbacks, but this one, it didn't exactly help the situation. Speaking of help, help is on the way. Iowa State football is going to be better next year than they were last year. Though one Big 12 coach doesn't think that's the case, and we'll talk about that coming up right here after this. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Seeing that number, now I budget smarter and I save more. And my personal favorite feature is that managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page. No stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So Iowa State football, probably going to win a national title next year. Probably going to go from the Big 12 championship game, win a couple playoff games, bing, bam, boom. Matt Campbell, Rocco Becht, company, national title. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Maybe keep that in mind when you hear that comment. Nonetheless, I do think Iowa State will be very, very good at football next year. I really do. I really mean that, okay? I know that it just seems like body blow after body blow after body blow is in opposition of Iowa State being successful next year at football. It just feels like the narrative is that this was a one-hit wonder, which I don't think is the case, and they aren't going to be able to replicate it. No Higgins and Knoll basically means that this team is barely a bowl game, kind of level team. Probably going to get a couple wins, probably upset a few teams, lose to teams they shouldn't. They'll end up right around that 6-win mark, and we'll all be questioning whether or not Matt Campbell will be headed to the NFL yet again. It's like clockwork. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. We'll talk about that, why I think that way here in just a couple minutes. But now, this is just so funny to me. Anonymous Big 12 coach reveals possible slip area for Iowa State in 2025. Love that they were anonymous. Okay. Definitely feel like that was the play here. Because if you put a target on your own back, that wouldn't be ideal. Let's just say. The quote here is that, quote, they were really banged up at linebacker last year, and they're turning over a lot of the secondary, this coach said via Athlon Sports. Quote, defense is the area where they might slip from last season. Couple things. First off, I don't even know if that's possible. I did not think Iowa State's defense as a whole was superb last year. I didn't think that they were necessarily top of the line. I didn't think that they were really standout on defense. Obviously, the secondary, best in the Big 12, arguably one of the best in all of college football. So, I'm not saying that they were all bad, that there were no bright spots. But I don't think that if you were to say Iowa State had a top 25 defense, I don't think you'd be correct in that. I don't think you'd probably even be that close. And the linebacker unit was obviously an area of trouble, I guess, is maybe a way of saying it, but they were hurt. They were just down left and right. Guys were getting smacked by the injury bug, and it was ugly. It wasn't awesome. Iowa State still found a way through all of those injuries to get to the Big 12 championship game. Now, didn't win it, but still got there. How many other teams in the Big 12 made it to the Big 12 championship game? One, other than Iowa State. And Iowa State sustained significant injuries throughout the course of the year to their linebacker unit. Now, of course, injuries all across the board for sure, but that's football in general. But the linebacker room just got run over by a bus. And injuries are such an interesting thing in sports, because how do you quantify what a team was able to accomplish with injuries involved? Because they obviously didn't plan for injuries, right? No one ever plans for an injury. We hope no one ever gets injured ever again. I don't know if you heard it. I knocked on wood. Okay. We hope everyone stays, even opponents, everyone in the entire game stays entirely healthy their entire career, honestly, until they pass away someday. Hopefully, when the time is right at the very, very end, right? We don't want to, it's just stay away from all of that. That's what ideally what would happen. But unfortunately, sports are a bit of a risk, and people get hurt, people get injured. They can come back though. That's the good news. So I'm saying here, Iowa State still able to be very successful with unexpected, I'll call them departures, because they are not playing once they're injured. Unexpected departures of contribution. I don't know if that's really a sentence, but it kind of sounds really nice. So I'm going to say that their defense was lacking, and they weren't expecting it, and they still made it to the Big 12 championship game. Now, the secondary is obviously a point that we have talked about. We have talked about that, and I will continue to talk about that here in just a few minutes. But the linebacker room, the fact that that's brought up here, did they watch any tape? They were really banged up at linebacker last year, turning over a lot in the secondary. They're not saying the linebacker unit wasn't good. They're saying they were banged up, but like, why are we even bringing that up if they're talking about the secondary? Because then they go on to say defense is the area where they might slip up from last season. I feel like that just completely contradicts the first portion, saying that they were really banged up at linebacker. It means those guys are going to be back more at full strength. Caleb Bacon being back on the team might single-handedly win games for Iowa State. Like, actually. Carson Willick, John Klosterman, Will McLaughlin, Caleb Brazina, Zachary Lovett. Name after name after name, dog after dog after dog, guy after guy after guy. Like, legitimately really could push Iowa State defense to the next level. And we all know what linebackers do. Run and pass. Okay? Defense, of course. They don't do a whole lot of running and passing on the offensive side of things. But that linebacker room is a crucial portion of the defense. So to get so many high-level players back, you're instantly seeing a major boost in defensive kind of efficiency, in production, essentially. That, to me, is huge. So I automatically disagree. Then to look at the secondary, of course, Iowa State, they suffered a little bit of a blow, okay? It's gonna happen when you have guys go to the NFL. Darian Porter, DP, a guy going to, I believe it's the Raiders. It's gonna hurt not having DP, and obviously Bo Freeler, another name. A lot of guys graduate. The secondary is an area that I think Iowa State is gonna have to kind of prove themselves in. But I think that the defensive line could be better this year. Seems like Dom is really just set. I mean, this guy is Orange is motivated, okay? And I don't know exactly how well it's going to translate, but you'd rather have motivation than not, okay? Now, of course, Vontre Malone, Trey Verdone, excuse me, guys that are going to make a difference as well. A name that we don't talk about a whole lot, Tomotomo McDonough from Yale, I think could be kind of the missing piece for that defensive line. What does that mean? If the defensive line can get to the quarterback, force pressures, maybe a couple sacks, get him out of his rhythm. Now the secondary doesn't have to defend as long, and there are also going to be more mistakes or missed throws coming their way, more opportunities. Benny Ngoye, a guy at that secondary position, that could be a huge flip for this Iowa State team. Obviously, DP coming over from wide receiver. Benny Ngoye, Jontez Williams. This secondary could be very, very good. So I guess if you were to say there is an area where Iowa State could slip, I don't necessarily, like, you're going 50-50 by saying it's the defense. You're saying it's either the offense or the defense, or I guess the special teams. Okay, you're one of two. So I can't say that that's ridiculous, because the offense, I mean, it feels like it makes sense that they would be very, very good. Tight end's kind of the same thing as the linebacker unit. Going to be stronger than ever. A lot of offensive production at the tight end position for Iowa State. Then when you talk about the wide receivers and the running backs, like, the wide receivers could be really good. There could be a lot of production through the air, through the wide receivers or the tight ends, kind of a mixture of that. Obviously, the running back group will add to that as well. The obviously guys coming back, Hanson and Sama, River Peppers potentially. Like, this team could be so good. I genuinely mean that. I read that and I immediately was like, we got to shoot that down. We're not even letting that get any legs here, because I just don't even think that's accurate. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I personally don't think there's a whole lot of merit behind that. There must have been some sort of provocative question. Like, if you had to pick one, like, okay, you put him in a spot and then you took this quote. I didn't see the official sentence. I apologize, but it doesn't matter. This is the quote that they said. This anonymous guy said, and well, I guess I didn't see the quote because he was anonymous. But the point is, don't think it's true. The guy was very good on defense with so much talent coming back at linebacker, and the defensive line could be better than last year, which I think is pretty hard to be worse. I think they're going to be better. Speaking of being better, I think the Iowa State women's basketball team is going to be better next year because Audi Crooks is coming back, and we're talking about why she chose to do that coming up right after this. Audi Crooks is potentially one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle when it comes to Iowa State women's basketball. Okay, you're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Iowa State women's basketball has picked up steam in recent years, for sure. Emily Ryan and Audi Crooks and Addie Brown, a lot of big names, of course. We've seen a little bit of, like, some some traction here. Okay, let's put it that way. Now, Audi Crooks, obviously her 40-point game her freshman year was kind of what put her on the map. Everyone's talking about her. And then this last year, I was curious at least to see what the year would look like. Now, she had a very good year. And then there were conversations of, could she be on another team now that this transfer portal era is what it is? And she decided to stay, which is awesome. Why did she decide to stay? Well, that's what we're talking about. And then we'll obviously get into just in a few minutes here what the future of Iowa State women's basketball looks like. And partially that's going to play into kind of the why she decided to stick around. Now, I will say there was some money being thrown around, some big numbers, and Crooks was like, I didn't even know that. That's a lot of, like, I didn't even know that. Like, that'd be, I guess in this quote, she doesn't say that would be pretty cool. But like she says, whoa, I didn't even know that was a thing. I have to imagine there was a little bit of a thought of 35 million. That'd be pretty cool. Speaking on the money though, she said speaking of kind of like money versus being at Iowa State, quote, money is life changing, of course, but these experiences are as well. So it was just in terms of what mattered to me more. And that was an easy decision. Okay. Feels like this is like on par for Iowa State, just across the board, football, basketball, you name it, any other Olympic sport. It feels like this is what it is. It's all about kind of almost like the intangibles, if you will, like the want and the passion for the university and this, that, and the other, the culture, all of that. It feels like that's what kind of Iowa State has hung its hat on, and it's kind of transitioned into the players as well. I think that's evident here with Audi Crooks, and I think Rocco Becht as well. We obviously covered potentially him going to Tennessee. That first transfer portal, a lot of talks of him going to any SEC school. They were basically just throwing spaghetti on the wall to see if it was cooked. And it was like, where could he go? He could go anywhere. Could be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC next year. Well, guess what? He's still on the Big 12 team. And it seems like the Big 12 might be one of the best quarterback conferences out there. Let's stay on women's basketball, though. Let's not get too far off topic here. We all saw the quote talking about the grass is greener where you water it. Very nice sentiment there. Very cool quote. And speaking on that, Crooks said that, quote, like I said, I tweeted the grass is greener where you water it. And I think that's something that's kind of a lost art, a lost phrase, Crooks said. But that's something I still very much believe in. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we've gotten away from in college sports. Went from 4, maybe 5 years at a university, getting the opportunity to really develop, kind of work your way into a system. What's the best way you can be used in that system? You grow through your freshman and sophomore years with the upperclassmen, then you take on those leadership responsibilities as you move on. Obviously, some guys or girls will take on that leadership role a little bit earlier than others. Some maybe not at all. Not the point. The point is, it's this kind of huge process, and it means more to me. Now, granted, I didn't have the opportunity to transfer colleges for athletics, so I guess I can't speak on this firsthand. But in concept, and from the fans' perspective, to me, it means more when you stick around for 4 years at a university. It just does. More relationships. I stuck around at the same university for 4.5 years, extra semester in there. Yeah, I'm feeling that in the loan department. I could name every road that I drove, and it was a lot of roads. Okay, there were some roads I never touched, so I can't say I can name every road in Ames. But that kind of thing you couldn't do if you transferred every year. I mean, I don't even know that many roads in any other towns. But in Ames, it's like the back of my hand. I know it like 85%. It's pretty good. It's a beat. So something to that, like you really get to know the ins, the outs. Obviously, you're still doing traveling. You're still seeing all these other places, but really, it's like you got a home base. I love that. That was kind of the sentiment. It's really about where you put your attention. And it seems like Iowa State put the attention on winning in this transfer portal. The addition of Jada Williams and Evangelia Polk, I think, really could set this Iowa State women's basketball team up for some great success. Couple departures, yes, but Audi Crooks coming back, Addie Brown coming back, both huge in the returning department. I think Jada Williams could be kind of the answer for this team. I'm like genuinely so excited to see that play out. I think she brings an intensity, a fiery nature that will show in that team. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Genuinely, I really mean that. That is going to be a fun player and team then to watch. I'll be interested to see how that kind of translates to the rest of the team as well, because it'll either go one of two, well, I guess one of three ways. And maybe let me know in the comments down below which way you think it'll go. It'll either be Jada Williams is the fiery player she is, and the team doesn't respond at all, and she's just kind of like a lone wolf. I think that's the least likely situation. Or option B, she's this fiery player and brings this whole team up to her level. Could be an awesome option. Probably the best option. I think it'll happen. Or option C, she's this fiery player, but then the way Iowa State plays kind of tones her down a little bit. She still got it, but just not quite on the same level. I mean, it stood out. It really stood out when you watch her play. It's like, whoa, okay, we got something here. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think Bill Fennelly will kind of like embrace the intensity and the fire in that situation, and I really, really think that she could bring this team to a whole new level. Let me know what you think down below. Which of those three options? Then Evangelia Park from Wofford could also be a huge portion of this. I mean, she was balling out in the Southern Conference, freshman of the year, following her 2023-24 campaign. Best season last season, averaged 12, almost 13 points, 2 assists, and 8.4 rebounds. I suppose I should clarify 1.9 assists. Nonetheless, she absolutely balled out, and I'll be very interested to see what she can do at the D1 level in the Power 4 and the Big 12. This team could be very, very good. Like, I legitimately mean that. And I think that Audi Crooks realizes there is a lot of potential for her at Iowa State to grow. Obviously saw growth from her freshman to her sophomore year. And I really think that at the end of the day, this comes down to the culture. This just shows how good the culture is for Iowa State women's basketball, right? I think that the culture for especially the top kind of three, football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, that we talk about the most here on this show, but of course, there are obviously wrestling really large. I do think softball is going to be something in the future. I know rugby's been brought up to me. I don't believe that that's officially a sport. That might be a club, but I know that I knew a couple guys on the rugby team. Great culture there as well. Point is, the culture at Iowa State is second to none. And it's like literally, if I could have a counter in the top corner here for the amount of times I've said that, I think I might have broken it by now. But I think it's for a reason. I think that the culture at Iowa State really is very just down to earth. Like, we do what's best for our players. They put the most into the program to get the most out for themselves and also their teammates. I was super happy to see that Audi Crooks was coming back, and it obviously is for the right reasons. When is it not with an Iowa State player? Riddle me that one. When is it not the right time for you to hit the subscribe button down below? It's completely free. Helps you prove it's in fact a Cyclone state. At Nick_Marv on Twitter as well if you're interested. All right, that's going to do it for today, folks. Thank you for sticking around. Tomorrow, we might be talking more college football playoff. Shocking, I know. Until next time, Cyclone fans. Sayonara.